then when it comes to goal setting, intentions, resolutions, focus, we can use our very powerful brain and we can repeat these activities, which will help us rewire our brain. I think this is why for somebody who is successful in reaching their goal in a year, they find it easier to continue to achieve that same goal in the coming years. I know in my case, it's been interesting to witness, I should say, not watch. I was going to say watch, but to witness how each year that I choose a word of the year, it's almost more powerful the following year because I have been practicing putting that word into place, focusing on that word, noticing how it aligns with my life, noticing where I can create more opportunities to live into that theme or that intention. And then after an entire year, I find the following years, it's much easier to live that way. Welcome to the Sober Edge podcast, inspiration for alcohol-free living. I'm your host, Terry Patterson, functional nutritionist and This Naked Mind senior coach. The Sober Edge is a place to explore the infinite possibilities on the other side of drinking. In a culture soaked in booze, discover the wonder and joy of taking a different path. Meet real people living lives of purpose and passion. Learn the truth behind the alcohol myths and get ready to be motivated, inspired, and astounded by what is possible with the Sober Edge. Well, hey, everyone, it's Terry back with another edition of the Sober Edge podcast, and I am excited to wish you a very happy new year. This episode is going to originally drop on January 1st, 2025. Oh my goodness, 2025. What a beautiful word. What a beautiful reflection of a quarter century in the 2000s. How much has changed? How much have we changed? And I want to set this up for us today because I want to invite you to explore what you want to put into place in 2025. And one of the things I want us to explore together is how we can set either goals or intentions or New Year's resolutions that will create peace, energy, alignment versus pressure, disappointment, or black and white thinking. One of the things that I work with my clients all the time is creating a more peaceful brain where we are not negating ourselves and fighting with ourselves and beating ourselves up and demoralizing ourselves. And I want to invite us into this process of setting up the new year in a way that makes us feel good versus holds us to a higher standard. You may have heard me say before, but I'm a big fan of lower the bar. Now, this doesn't mean that I don't embrace excellence, but I also understand that we need to create small wins, and small wins lead to big victories, right? And so we have this opportunity to set ourselves up for all the good things that are coming ahead. And we can also, when we do that, we can also weather the challenges more easily. And so today I want to talk about some of the things that I have used in the past to help people focus on what to do in the new year. So last year, I embraced a new practice called 24 for 24, and I will be sharing more about a time that you can join me for a live workshop on 25 for 25. And it's just simply a way to put some energy and intention into creating what we want. You know, the idea of manifesting is aligning our energy with the energy in the universe of what's available. And again, when we align our thoughts with the positive opportunities in the future, everything can shift. So, I want to share my idea, first of all, about a word of the year. And I have been choosing a word of the year since 2019. So, that's, let's see, 6 words I think that I've had. And I haven't quite landed on my word of the year yet. I will tell you the 2 I am considering at the end of this podcast. But I want to just first ask you, have you ever tried a word of the year? Many of us are, sort of still in that mindset of how we set New Year's resolutions. And I think that it perhaps might serve us well to expand on this idea. One of the things that I wanted to share today is what happens to our brain when we set goals and what is the neuroscience of goal setting. And so when we first consider this, the first thing to know is that our friend dopamine, that plays a very powerful role in the pleasure pathway when it comes to alcohol use disorder and the way we get hijacked around these things that create so much dopamine. So, dopamine has a part beyond just pleasure that is motivation. And this neurotransmitter can really help us when it comes to goal setting. And so the this neurotransmitter dopamine is released when you achieve small wins. And so this actually strengthens new neural pathways, and it can encourage us toward continuing to work toward our goal. And so we know that dopamine, in addition to pain pleasure, it's also responsible for motivation and focus. And so it's called the wanting molecule. So we can use our very powerful brain and celebrate small wins that keep us attached to the outcome we're looking for. So whether you choose a resolution or a goal or an intention or a word, celebrate when you are living out that intention, when you are reaching closer to that goal. We also have neuroplasticity, which is all about rewiring the brain. And so this comes down to habits as well. So when you repeat a behavior consistently, this is how you create a new neural pathway. And the brain has this ability to rewire itself. So, for habits to stick, we have to engage in repetition and persistence. So, we allow these pathways to strengthen over time. And when it comes to goal setting, intentions, resolutions, focus, we can use our very powerful brain and we can repeat these activities, which will help us rewire our brain. I think this is why for somebody who is successful in reaching their goal in a year, they find it easier to continue to achieve that same goal in the coming years. I know in my case, it's been interesting to witness, I should say, not watch. I was going to say watch, but to witness how each year that I choose a word of the year, it's almost more powerful the following year because I have been practicing putting that word into place, focusing on that word, noticing how it aligns with my life, noticing where I can create more opportunities to live into that theme or that intention. And then after an entire year, I find the following years, it's much easier to live that way. So, for example, the word delight was my word for 2023. And I focused a lot on delight. And now in 2024, I found myself moving more easily into areas of delight, noticing delight more often, asking myself, will this activity event create more delight? And so this is a really powerful way that our brain helps us with neuroplasticity. So then we also have the amygdala because this is part emotional response. So we know the amygdala processes emotions that could either support or hinder a goal, intention, or resolution. And if we, again, using our very powerful brain, if we frame a goal as scary or too difficult, then our powerful amygdala will trigger fear or avoidance. And so we can reframe our goals positively to reduce anxiety and improve perseverance, improve our willingness to stick with it when something feels easy. And again, this kind of goes back to lowering the bar, right? And we can activate the brain's reward system by breaking our goals into smaller milestones. And then each win will release dopamine, which reinforces our motivation and strengthens neural pathways, which helps us create habits. So, when we think of something that is more intentional versus goal oriented, we may think that habit doesn't really have a role. But I invite you to sort of stretch your thoughts around that. Because if you have, let's see, some of my clients lately have been sharing goals like open, or I'm sorry, words like open. So, word of the year, open. And imagine that we think, well, that doesn't really have a way that is attached to habit, but that's not true necessarily. When we expand our idea of how having a habit of being more open to opportunities, new experiences, opening your mind, opening your heart, we can think, well, how does this habit help me create that as a new neural pathway so that my automatic go-to is to choose the thing aligned with being more open. And so I want invite you to play around with that. I think it's part of this. And then I think it's sort of interesting to think about the pros and cons of resolutions or goals in the new year. So for pros, we can think about increased motivation. So this fresh start increases self-efficacy and motivation. So my mentor when it comes to all things habits is Gretchen Rubin, and she has the idea of a fresh start. It could be one of our, you know, let's see, what does she call them? It can be one of our sort of hacks toward creating new habits is when there is a fresh start, like a Monday or January 1st. And then we also have mental clarity. So when we reflect on past years and our behavior or habits, it encourages self-awareness and allows us to focus on what's most important now. And then again, neuroplasticity, setting goals can require new habits which promote our brain growth and learning. And so how beautiful it is to think of setting a New Year's resolution as a learning activity. And it's true, right? When we consider it that way. And then there are some cons, but I want to help us sort of negate or bust through these cons. So the first is one con could be an unrealistic expectation. So overly ambitious goals activate the brain's threat system, just like we were talking about with the amygdala, and they can increase anxiety and fear of failure. However, I think that when we recognize that, that's important. And instead of becoming a con it or negative, it really just becomes a strategy. Recognize when these goals feel overly ambitious and dial them back, lower the bar. And then number two, willpower depletion. So our prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of our brain that's also responsible for self-control, can become fatigued if we have too many things we're trying to change at once. So too many resolutions, too many intentions for the new year. And we see this all the time, right? Particularly I do in my work with people who are feeling good about the changes and the possibility of letting go of alcohol. They often want to throw down the gauntlet and have a double or triple threat where, I not only want to give up alcohol, but I want to lose weight and hit the gym 5 days a week. And we can see that it's hard to create substantial change when we have multiple areas. And so by having a one-word theme or a single intention for the year, we can then surpass or we can reduce that friction around willpower depletion. And then negative self-talk can be another con. If we set up our resolutions or goals as very black and white, we can achieve feelings of guilt and shame if we don't achieve them, our goals or resolutions. And this can increase cortisol, which then reduces our motivation. So I think when it comes to the cons, unrealistic expectations, willpower depletion, negative self-talk. We can really set ourselves up to, bypass all of that by noticing that this is possible and using our very powerful brain to change that dynamic. And then when we think about the benefits of choosing a one word theme, we can there's several benefits actually. And so one benefit is simplicity and focus. So unlike complex resolutions, a single word can help our brain attach because it's simpler and easier to remember. And then we have flexibility and adaptability with a word. So a single word or short phrase can be adapted to changing circumstances, and we can use it in different ways as the year unfolds. And this flexibility makes it easier to stay committed to your intentions, even when life takes a a change of direction or an unexpected turn. And I think about the word that I had for 2024, which is hone, HONE. There's a lot of ways to think about hone and sharpen, a skill set or hone in on, meaning focus in on a certain relationship or a change. And so if you choose a single word, it often can be very accommodating to playing out this theme in your entire year. And then one of the benefits too is promoting self reflection. So the process of choosing the word, simply the process of choosing it, helps us look inside and go inward and encourages deep introspection about your values and your goals and what you truly want to focus on in the coming year. It's really powerful to have our word of the year aligned with our values and goals. And so, for example, the word hone allows me to focus in on my desire to show up with excellence, my desire to keep learning. And it's an opportunity to really create actions that will create momentum in our year. So I just think there's so many great things about choosing a single word. It also can help us create intentionality. So when we ask, will this experience create more of the open that I've chosen for the year or the delight? It can act as a constant reminder so that we align our daily actions with these broader life goals and values. And that is really how we create intention. And it can encourage, choosing this word can encourage growth and development. So by focusing on a specific theme or quality, we're more likely to take steps toward personal growth and improve in that area. So, for example, if your word is patience, your word can inspire you to develop in those new ways. And so I think it's just such a beautiful idea. It also provides a sense of direction. So this is when we're faced with decisions, we can again look at this overarching theme and ask, if my word of the year is growth or grace, how does this decision align with that word? If I choose to put that in front and move in that direction, what would my choice be? So, really beautiful way to create more intention in our life. And so, again, if you want to find out more about this, and I'll put it in the show notes, but Gretchen Rubin does such a great job of helping us understand more about how and why to choose a word of the year or even a short phrase. And so I have my own process to choose a word, but really a lot of it is around this reflection of what went well in this last year. What are you wanting to double down on and continue creating? And where did last year's growth lead you in a way that you can leapfrog from that? And so, what do you want more of? How do these things that you reflect on from last year make you feel? And so, from that, you can choose 1 to 5 words. It might be that, this was a year of greater intention. It was a year of uh, choices, hard choices. It was a year of reflection. And when you look at that, then you could say, well, if 2024 was really a year of reflection and choices, what would a word be in 2025 that would help me create that beautiful through line and move in that direction? So I'm just thinking this off the top of my head, but if your words were, choose and reflection, then perhaps your word of 2025 might be alignment, or it might be peace, because now you've been in a place of hard choices. So, anyway, play with it. And one thing to do that can be really helpful is get out your dictionary and review how the word is defined and look at the synonyms. Is there a similar word? And Gretchen Rubin always says, look at the opposite. So if your word is quick, what if your other word is slow? So perhaps you think, oh, yeah, quick would be a great word, but maybe slow would also be a great word. So she says that the opposite of a profound truth is also true. So take a look at the definition, the synonyms, the opposite meaning, and see if that also helps you create your word. A couple of other ideas. Identify one word as an overarching theme, or you could try a color. I remember the first time a client shared with me that they had picked a color, and what a cool idea, particularly for those of us who are more visual or artistic. You could also choose a short phrase. Gretchen shares an example of better, not more. And so imagine if that was your phrase, and every time you considered, I want it to be better, not more. And so this speaks to quality, it speaks to intention. And, sometimes a short phrase can really help us. And then you could choose one word and some supportive words, like hone. What was very close to hone was sharpen, refine, focus. So those were some of the things I also brought into 2024. And ask yourself, does this word challenge you? Does it feel congruent? Does it spark growth opportunities? I know for me that often when I come down to two words, like I am here, as we are just on the brink of 2025, I will often ask myself, which is the more challenging word? Because this is an opportunity to grow. And I, as a lifelong learner and someone who values personal growth, I want to be somewhat challenged. And then, is this a word that has multiple meanings? Because sometimes that too can help us to decide on a word so that we see that flexibility and adaptability. So, some adaptable words would perhaps be release. You could look at release as a way to release negative thoughts, as a way to release old grudges, old patterns, as a way to release weight, release alcohol from your life. So you can kind of get an idea. A word such as shine could be, I want to shine for others. I want to notice what I take a shine to. I want to make sure I shine my light rather than dim my light. I want to notice what is shining in my vision so that I can focus on beauty. Like there's lots of ways to adapt certain words. And so if this feels resonant with you, I want to invite you to explore these ideas. So again, you could try a color, you could try a short phrase, you could ask yourself, is this word challenging? Will it spark growth opportunity? You can choose a word that has multiple meanings and association, and choose a word that perhaps aligns with your values and your character, and a word that builds on what you created and experienced in 2024. For example, if you let go of alcohol in 2024, bravo, bravo, my friend. And that letting go, how could you build on letting go? So, for example, if you subtracted alcohol, perhaps 2025 is a year of adding something. Maybe your word of the year is abundance, because it means you now have the opportunity for room in your heart and your life and your vision to create more. So again, play around with this and enjoy it. And if you do set more goal-oriented or New Year's resolutions, I invite you again to use those pros and cons and notice that, you want to be careful of unrealistic expectations, willpower depletion, and negative self-talk. So, however this is shaping up for you, I hope you will enter this new year with intention and with a focus on using your very powerful brain and leading with your heart and intuition into a beautiful space of creative energy. Happy, happy New Year. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Sober Edge podcast. This is a place for important conversations and a safe place to question everything you thought you knew about drinking. If you're looking for your sober edge, I want to invite you to connect with me at thesobernutritionist.com, where you can grab my free resource, Becoming More, a guide to loving your sober life. And I would be so grateful if you enjoyed this podcast, if you would leave a rating and review, as it will help more people find their sober edge.